In this video, I'm going to discuss the main functions of folate, the differences between synthetic folic acids and folate, and how someone's folate level can be low due to an inadequate dietary intake of medications. And if you stay till the last, I will give you some ways that you can incorporate to support your system. The main functions of vitamin B9, folate, particularly in this active form, is to support RNA and DNA synthesis. It is extremely crucial for cell division and repair, and is needed even more during different stages of pregnancy and infancy. It also helps in the interconversions of amino acids, such as the metabolism of homocysteines, the productions of your nitric oxides and neurotransmitters, and also support the detoxification pathways. Folate also helps in the formations and maturations of white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets. Low levels of folate usually cause anemia. And if vitamin B12 is also deficient, it can further delay nuclear maturations and impair DNA replication. This is also known as megaloblastic anemia, whereby the red blood cells is defect and grows abnormally huge, causing a reduce in red blood cells count. And the most important function of folate is to support the methylation cycle. If we move over to this pathway over here, designed by Dr. Ben Lynch and his team members from Seeking Health, we can see that folate, especially this 5-metafolate at the bottom over here, can't do it alone along these junctions because it requires both methylcobalamin and another cofactor zinc. If the methylation is running smoothly, you ultimately methylate homocysteines and then proceed further into the productions of your SAMe. Then SAMe is the primary metal donor to a whole lot of reactions catalyzed by metal transferases. And 80% of the SAMe is mainly used for the productions of your phosphatidylcholine and creatine via the PMT and GAMT enzyme. Therefore, a slow methylation cycle can definitely affect all downstream functions in our body. So when we switch to this folate pathway, folic acid usually is consumed through our dietary intake or sometimes inside our supplements. And both folate and folic acids needs to get transported from this mucosal membrane and reduced into dihydrofolate by these DHFR enzymes. And it needs to be reduced again to become the active form of folate known as THF, tetrahydrofolate. And THF has various key derivatives. It can either form 10-formal THF via MTHFD enzyme, which provides instructions to make an enzyme called C1-THF synthase. Okay, this particular enzyme is essential for the conversions of other derivatives into 10-formal THF, 5,10-methanol THF, and 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate. And these derivatives has different jobs. I will briefly go through each of them. 10-formal tetrahydrofolate is advanced into purine synthesis, which is the productions of ATP and GTP. And ATP, as we all know, is our body's energy currency. And GTP is the productions of BH4, the biopterin, which is a precursor for making of neurotransmitters like our dopamine and serotonin, and also the productions of your nitric oxide. Then 5,10-methanol tetrahydrofolate can be converted back upwards 10-formal tetrahydrofolate if the body requires to synthesize more neurotransmitters or more energy via the purine synthesis, or proceed downwards into 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate to make more DNA. Then if we move over to the left over here, we can see these folinic acids, usually known as a storage form of folates. It can be a precursor for this 5,10-methanol tetrahydrofolate. And this folinic acid sometimes can be found in some supplements, in those very good supplements. Notice that the arrows shown over here are mostly pointing in both directions. So depending on the priority the body needs, it can switch in between different type of derivatives to perform different jobs. Then the third derivative is 5,10-methylene tetrahydrofolate. From the look of it, it has 3 different routes. It can either go left to make more DNA via this thymidine synthesis, or go south for the productions of metafolate the most active form of folate, which we want at least 80% in our bloodstream, or you can go right and convert back to tetrahydrofolate via SHMT enzyme. So why someone's folate level can be low? If we move up to the upstream over here, so when someone consumes a lot of folic acid, it can greatly slow down this THFR gene. And when that happens, there will be lesser derivatives available to perform those essential functions, which I mentioned earlier, and run this whole methylation cycle. The folic acid also slows down this folate absorption simply by oversaturating folate receptor sites. And since these protein receptors has a higher affinity to bind to folic acid, when there's too much folic acid, they can now flood your system and block the folate which we want for conversion. And preferentially, we want our bloodstream to have at least 80% as metafolate. And if you have very little metafolate, it can slow down everything downstreams, affecting your semi-productions, meaning that it will slow down more than 200 over functions, which includes the productions of phosphatidylcholine, your creatine, your stress hormones, our energy, our ATP, and also neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, stress hormones like your epinephrine and norepinephrine. And SAM also support the metabolism of our estrogen, our brain chemicals, our histamine, and many more. Basically, SAMe is the precursor of all these metal transferases enzymes. And this chart is being created by me a few weeks ago. It can be downloaded in the description box below. Folate level can also be low due to several reasons. It could be due to inadequate dietary folate intake, or it could be due to low stomach acid, which is very common when someone has acid reflux, or underlying issues that leads to a decrease in their stomach acid level. For example, someone with H. pylori bacteria left untreated can constantly neutralize stomach acids and reduce the pH levels. Folate can also be greatly reduced when someone who is vegan or vegetarian because they consume a lot of vegetables such as your kale and spinach. Or maybe even someone who consume a lot of nuts and seeds, or drink a lot of coffee and tea which contains tannins. All these anti-nutrients can actually inhibit absorption of crucial nutrients or your minerals and vitamins. Drugs and medication can also further slow down your folate pathway. They can actually reduce the activity of your enzyme. As you can see from here, the common medications can sometimes be your usual painkillers like your aspirin, your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like your ibuprofen, or antacids if someone's suffering from acid reflux. Patient who is taking cancer treatment medications, methotrexate, is also a huge problem. And they should stop getting additional synthetic folic acids in their diet to further slow down the activity. Even supplements nowadays has inferior ingredients. You have to check the ingredient listings and go through their nutritional facts label. You do not want to have folic acids or this synthetic form of vitamin B12, cyanocobalamin. Vitamin B12 and B9 is the key methylation regulator at this point. Insufficient in either of these vitamins will hinder remethylation of homocysteine. And as you can see over here, any oxidative stress, heavy metals or inflammations can add on to the load to make it spin even slower. So in order to support your folate pathway, first you have to remove or reduce these environmental toxicants and wrong food. I'm not saying that you have to do everything as listed here in day one. Do it in a continuum. You will slowly gain the knowledge and awareness over time. Then when you know the right directions to take, you will stay within a course of recovery and or optimizations. There are certain tests which I find pretty essential because you want to rule out certain things like H. pylori bacteria, which can affect your stomach acids to break down your food and to facilitate digestion. If the early stages of digestion is not functioning, then you have to correct it first because it's like, for example, if you have a factory and if you are producing computers, the first line of production is to make all your memory chips. And if there's a problem making all these memory chips, you won't get your computer completed. There's also certain bad bugs inside our gut, which can compete the nutrients that our body needs to perform and help to keep the pathway spinning. These are the tests like the GI map, which you can check for parasitic pathogens, bacteria, yeast, parasites, as you can see over here. There's also useful markers like this which can indicate how well you are digesting, and the immune function status. Then you can decide if you want to go through your primary care provider to treat them, or maybe if you want to go for a holistic approach by using all these drug-free supplements. Another test which is very useful and is one of my favorite is this organic acid test. This allows the practitioners to review the metabolites that our body produces as a byproduct. And we can tell a deeper story how all these enzymatic activities are behaving. The organic acid test also helps to check the levels of vitamins and minerals inside our body. And we certainly do not want insufficiency or excess, which can cause toxicity. So once you have done the remove and reduce protocols, then you can slowly introduce the supports, also known as the restore. First, you have to definitely have to change your diet. Go for quality over quantity, meaning more nutrient-dense food. If you can go organic, that's the best because you do not want all these pesticides and herbicides on your food. Supplements only when needed. And remember, you can't out-supplement your nutrition. And also use a pulse method instead, because the suggested dose is usually based on general populations, which may not be a good fit for you. And what we want to do is more like individualized medicine, which is based on your physique, your activity level, your current conditions, and your past medical history. Then slowly titrate your supplements and do micro dosing if there's a need. You can just take a quarter or half a capsules or tablet and slowly work your way up. Stop the supplements when it's not needed anymore, meaning that when you feel the best, you do not need as much anymore. Then when you encounter new symptoms or side effects, you can actually back down. If you consume too much of one mineral, it can affect the other minerals because the body needs all these nutrients in the homeostasis. If you want to, can you actually refer to this modus chart over here? You may need extra nutrients when you are more stressed, like going for a major meeting, a presentation, or if you are a student undergoing a final examinations. And if you're going for a holiday, a vacation, just pause your supplements. I don't think you will feel very stressed when you're going for a holiday. So basically, when you're more stressed, you are in this sympathetic nervous state. Then you definitely require more nutrients to support your pathway to give all these cofactors for the production of your stress hormones. Then when you are in a relaxed mode, parasympathetic nervous state, you require less nutrients. Okay, we have come to the end of this video. In the upcoming video, I will go through various symptoms which most people experience and relate it through StrateGene pathways and charts. If you have not watched the video on how anti-nutrients can affect minerals and vitamins deficiency, do click here.